and welcome to episode 71 of Stitched in Sweden. I'm Maria and you can find me on Ravelry as M. Monska and on Instagram as Stitched in Sweden. This week I thought I would talk to you a little bit about what I have been knitting and sewing in the past month, but also to go a little more in depth about what some of my upcoming project plans are and kind of how I'm thinking about those projects for the new year. I thought it would be good to get a little bit of a head start on New Year's resolutions, which are not really New Year's resolutions for me, just more kind of a plan of how I want to think about my making in the beginning of 2018. So let's get started with a couple of things that I have been knitting this past month. I'm still working on the Citadel Brownstone combination sweater for Thomas, and I'm knitting this sweater for him out of a blue merino yarn from Knitting for Olive, which is called their Heavy Merino. And I'm using my colors are a bit strange today because first of all I'm wearing a red sweater, but also because it's winter and the lighting is just weird. But this is a pretty bright blue, blueberry color, and this, I'm still in the same place as I was last time because I have a large knitting project, another sweater, that has a deadline in the beginning of January, so, and I've been working on my other sweater, so his is still partway done with the arms and in the same place as before. But as soon as I'm finished with the project that I'm working on with the deadline, then I'll pick up his sweater again and work on that. Let's see, I did finish a couple of things since the last time. One of the things is the Looking Ahead hat, which is a pattern by Vera Valimaki. This hat pattern is in Interpretations volume number 3. It's actually the hat on the front cover, and I was really hoping that this would be the hat pattern for me because I just struggle with hats. I don't like wearing them, and I think I look funny in them, and they squish my hair and I really don't like hats. But it's really cold here in the winter and sometimes I really need a hat. So I was hoping this would be the one. I don't know if it is. I haven't worn it out yet. I think it's definitely missing a pom-pom, which it has a pom-pom in the pattern. I just haven't put one on yet because I'm not sure exactly if I'm going to do a fur pom-pom, a fake fur pom-pom, that is, or if I'm going to make a yarn pom-pom. And if I do a yarn pom-pom, what color will it be? So yeah, I still have some questions about that. But here's the hat, and I just did a couple of changes. I did a tubular cast on, and I just did normal 2x2 rib instead of a twisted 2x2 because I was having a hard time getting the tubular cast on to look nice with the twisted rib, and I'm not really sure why that is. My tubular cast on looks super nice on the inside / back part, but for some reason it's like kind of loose on the front. I'm not really sure why that happened. I redid it a couple of times. In the end, I was like, it will even out when I block it. I haven't blocked it yet. So here it is, and yeah, I just don't like wearing hats because I never know what to do with my hair, and I think like I just look kind of bold. I don't know how far to pull it down, whatever. I think it needs a pom-pom. That will help. You see, like, what is this? So I don't know how to wear it really, but sometimes I like to have a hat for my way home from work because then sometimes on my way to work my hair is still slightly wet, and I don't want it to get messed up while it's drying because otherwise the curls will be all crazy. But on the way home I can put on a hat and then I'm just home, so it doesn't really matter if my hair is crazy. but I'm gonna try to wear this one. I think it has like little cute points on it kind of, but they just, yeah, go into the hat. And the only fake fur pom-pom I have right now is already attached to another hat, the Quadri hat, I think it is, by Michelle Wong. I have that, and I have a black pom-pom on that, which I don't think would really go with this hat. I would prefer to have either a gray pom-pom or, yeah, something else. I have a tiny bit of this yarn left, which is from Hey Sister Yarn Co. It is their Leaf on the Wind color, and it's in the snuggle worsted base. I made this hat also to go with my Thalia shawl, which is a big shawl by Andrea Mowry, and I knit that out of a forest green from Quince & Co. It's their boreal color, and I use this Leaf on the Wind speckled, it's like a slightly speckled yarn, as you can see ish, maybe. I used that as the tassel yarn and on the border of that shawl, and I've been wearing that shawl a ton this winter so far, so I thought it would be nice to have like a matching hat. So the question is if I want to do a pom-pom in the green so that it goes with my shawl, or it will go with my shawl anyway, so I could just use a fake fur pom-pom, or I could also use this, which it picks up one of the other colors that's kind of in this hat already. So I don't know. But basically I haven't decided yet, and I just am worried that it's not going to get very much wear because I just really don't like wearing hats. We'll see. Also, I haven't blocked it yet, and I haven't decided if I'm going to block it because I kind of like the springiness of it right now, and I'm worried that might go away if I block it. Another project that I finished this past month, but I don't have with me anymore because I just sent it in a package yesterday, is Emily's Favorite Socks, which is a pattern on Ravelry, and I made this pair of ribbed socks for my mom. I was talking about last time that I was going to make her some socks in this moss green from Fru Valborg, and I did that. I made a contrasting heel for them, and they have a 1x1 rib on the cuff, and I think it was 2x2, but now I want to say it was 3x1 rib. I think it was 3x1 rib actually. I'm really second guessing myself now. But they turned out great, and I'm gonna use the pattern for a second pair of socks for me with the other yarn that I got at the Stockholm Knitting Festival, which I showed you last time. This lovely, it's called Rust and Stuff. It's like this beautiful cream with orange and black speckles and things like that. So I think I'm going to make the same socks for me out of this yarn, and I would like to cast those on soon, but I'm really trying to not cast anything on right now until I have my deadline project out of the way. The last bit of knitting that I did, besides, yeah, my secret project, sorry, I know that's annoying. Besides this is the Helga Mittens, which is a pattern by Jenny Penny, and I've finished, well, not finished, but I have knit most of the first mitten. Here it is. You can see this is the first owl eye forming here, and the color work for the owl is made with duplicate stitches, so I still need to do that part. I've only done a little bit of it here with the pink. So basically duplicate stitches when you, I knit the whole mitten in only alternating with the black and white color work. Like, yeah, for the eye and the nose and all this stuff. For those places, I will go back over with a darning needle and the other color, and basically you follow your previous stitches that you knit, and you just sew them over it. So I also still need to put in the thumb. I just have put in an afterthought, or or waist yarn kind of space there. And these actually turned out way tighter than I expected. I thought that I was going to have to line them because I thought they were going to be way too big. And now I almost wish that they had come out a bit bigger so that I could have lined them, because that would be actually really nice. I don't think that I'm going to redo them because that just seems crazy. And it's a little bit hard to tell the sizing when I don't have the thumb hole open, but they do, yeah, stretch a bit. I think my hand looks pretty funny in them. That's my hand when it's flat. I don't know. I really like the cuff, like that part feels good, but I'm not sure about the other part. I think it will be really okay once I have the thumb. I think I should probably open up the thumb hole, stick my thumb through, see how it feels, and if that's gonna work out before I do all the duplicate stitching. Otherwise, I might right back to the cuff and go up a needle size or two. I don't know. I don't think that would be a very good idea. So here's the first one, and the second one will just get done when it happens, which probably won't be for a little while. But that's basically what I've been working on with knitting. And one thing I've been thinking about, this is kind of going into my plans for knitting and sewing for 2018. I have made a list of what I'm calling projects before purchases, and I have a separate list for knitting and a separate list for sewing. Basically, this is a list of projects that I have the yarn or I have the fabric and I have the pattern and I know exactly what I want to make. And some of these things are, most of them are projects that I bought the yarn or the fabric with the intention to sew or knit a particular pattern, and I haven't necessarily done it yet, or yeah, I just got sidetracked or whatever. A couple of them are, for example, yarn that I bought and I didn't have a pattern in mind in the beginning, but now have come across a pattern that I really like that the yarn or fabric works perfectly for. So basically I have this list, and it's just like in a notebook, which I have the name of the project, so Emily's Favorite Socks for Mom, and then I have the start date, started November 6th, finished November 14th, and then I have a little check mark by that one because I finished it and I sent it to her. And then I have Citadel for Thomas, started in October. I don't remember the exact date, and that one's still a work in progress, but I have a list of 8 different knitting projects, which are projects that I want to finish before I purchase any more yarn. The idea for this for me is that I know right around the beginning of the year, oftentimes people decide to go on a yarn diet, or yeah, I think it's mostly to go on a yarn diet to try to stop buying yarn. And sometimes they say, you know, I'm not going to buy yarn for a month or 3 months or however long I can. But that doesn't really, I don't know, to me that seems like not counterproductive, but it's just not the mindset I want to have behind my projects. So instead I'm trying to be really intentional with the projects that I'm doing, and realizing that I have 8 knitting projects that I really want to knit, and I have the yarn for them already, so I can work my way through those projects, and it's quite satisfying to have them written down, check them off when they're finished, and then feel like, okay, I made something, and it was with something that I already had that I bought at some point with the intention of making something. So I'll go through my list for knitting that I have now. I have the sweater project that I'm working on that I can't give you details about, but I can show you. This is the swatch. It's a beautiful gold, yellowish, I would say almost like, it has a little bit of a brown color, like it's pretty similar to my hair. It's not showing up with the best lighting now because my lighting is a bit yellow in this room because it's winter. This is my swatch for this project that I'm working on, which will be finished in the beginning of January. So that's the #1 thing on my list, and on this one I've put a note next to it, the deadline. So then I have Emily's Favorite Socks for Mom, check, finished. Then I have the Friendship Shawl, and I'm planning on knitting that with the Wool Barn blush color, I believe. Held double, hopefully, if I can convince my friend that she can still sell me her other skein of that so that I can knit that. So that's the Friendship Shawl. Then I have the Citadel / Brownstone for Thomas, which I started in October. Has a long way to go. I have the Helga Hoot mittens, started October 31st. I have listed Socks for Me, which will be in this yarn that I showed you. And finally, I have the Looking Ahead hat, which is this one. So out of this list, I have already finished 2 things, Emily's Favorite Socks for Mom and the Looking Ahead hat. I'm halfway through the Hoot mittens, started the Citadel from Thomas, and I'm working on the sweater for the deadline. Oh, I forgot one other thing. I also want to knit the Foothills sweater, which is a Brooklyn tweed pattern. I have 5 skeins of Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the Foothills color, which is this beautiful, I would say like light sage green. And I want to knit the Foothills sweater. My mom and dad and sister, my family, gifted me this yarn, I want to say not last Christmas, but the Christmas before. Because last Christmas they gave me the Quincenco Boreal, which I made the big shawl out of from Andrea Mowry. And I'm pretty sure it was the year before that they gave me this yarn, and I haven't knit anything with it yet. Originally it was going to be the Wellwood pullover, but it just hasn't become that yet. And even though it's a really beautiful pattern, it's just not like pulling me to knit it right now. So instead, I think I'm going to knit Foothills sweater, which is a pullover, cabled, with a lot of reverse stockinette stitch, and I think it looks really nice, and it will be a nice wardrobe staple to have. So that is the last thing on my list for the projects before purchases for knitting. So again, the goal is to not buy any yarn, not be tempted by any yarn before I have made it through this list of projects. And that way, it's not like a restricted time. It's not like, oh, you can't buy any yarn ever again. It's not like you can't buy yarn for 3 months. It's like you can buy some yarn once you've used this amount of your stash and finish these projects that you really want to work on. Because otherwise I feel like it's getting to the point of just like, oh, yarn, I want to make this, I want to make this, and then I never am enjoying the yarn that I have and finishing the projects that I wanted to in the beginning. I think this is a good list. 3 sweaters, 2 pairs of socks, 1 shawl, 1 pair of mittens, and 1 hat. So that's my knitting list, and you are welcome to join me on this quest if you would like. I mean, nothing serious, but I think for me this is how I'm going to start thinking about my projects. And the other thing that's nice is that this list is allowed to, it's not allowed to change really, but it's allowed to grow. I mean, it is allowed to change. Like, let's say that I decided I don't want to knit the Foothills sweater anymore, which I am going to knit it though. But let's say I don't want to knit that sweater anymore, then I could pick another sweater pattern using that yarn. But the goal is just like to use the yarn that's in my stash, and that's why I've planned out these projects with specific yarn in mind. So that's it for the knitting. Oh, no it's not. So then I'll just share with you quickly what I'm wearing, which is a oldie but a goodie sweater pattern. This is a sweater that I finished in 2013, and this is the beatnik sweater. It's loosely based on the beatnik sweater, which I think is a free pattern on Ravelry. And I modified the neckline, which I don't particularly love. I'll scoot back a little bit. I mean, I like the, I don't know, there's something strange about it. I think it goes too scoopy and is like too high up on my neck or something, so that it's more of like an oval. I think it should be more like, yeah, I don't know, but the original pattern has quite a high boat neck, And the original pattern also has different cables on the front. So I changed the cables based on, I saw Tanis from Tanis Fiber Arts. She made a similar sweater with she made the beat neck also with a similar modification in terms of the cable style on the front, and I really liked hers, so I also did the same kind of cable that she used. But yeah, this sweater is pretty much just like a nice cabley sweater that I like to wear around this time of year. And it's made in Quince & Co. Lark, which is their worsted base in the wine sap color, which is a really bright, true apple red. Okay, so now on to sewing. Sewing this week, or this month, I guess, has been rather slow. I've been having a lot of back pain, which makes it difficult to cut out patterns on the floor, cut out my fabric for patterns and everything like that. So I haven't really been sewing all that much. I did manage to stitch together my muslin for fitting my Chloe coat, which is a pattern from Sew Over It. This is the pattern for the Chloe coat. It's basically a pretty straight bodied coat with a zipper and no collar, which is something that I've really been looking for in a coat. I found a coat right before I moved to Sweden that didn't have a collar that I really liked, but it turns out that I have super broad shoulders, or a broad upper back, I guess. Now I'm realizing that more and more. I mean, I always knew that, but I'm realizing it more and more as I compare my shoulder measurement to the shoulder measurement in most patterns. I didn't buy that coat, but I've sort of been thinking about it ever since because I really like the idea of having a coat pattern that, or having a coat that doesn't have a collar so you can wear huge knitted shawls with it. So this is going to be a little bit strange because, first of all, this is a problem with 3/4 length sleeved sweaters, is that they're annoying to put things over them that have long sleeves, I think. And this is in crazy fabric because it's sort of a scrap fabric that I had from a project that I did making curtains for my friend's tiny house. And so here is the coat. It really does look kind of crazy. But it's fitting really well when I put the front pieces pinned together where they should be. Bust darts are in the right place. I've shortened the length of it a little bit, which you can't even tell, but it is a bit shorter. Ow, pin. That was really painful. It's a bit shorter than the original pattern, and obviously the neck is a tiny bit lower because this doesn't have the seam allowance taken out of it. Yeah, again, right now maybe the shoulders do look a little bit wide here, but that's because it's not closed in the front. But when it's in the right place in the front and pinned in, I really think the shoulders are in the right place. So for this pattern so far, I wrote some notes of what I've done. I decided to go with the size 8, which is the smallest size. My bust measurement is 34 inches, which is right in between a size 8 and a size 10. My waist is 26.5, which is closest to a size 8. And my hips are 35.5, which is also closest to an 8. My shoulders, are you ready for this? 16 inches, which puts me in the size 16 for the shoulder measurement. So basically my whole body is in a size 8, but my shoulders are size 16. So I was going back and forth of what should I do, because in the Intro to Coats Chloe coat, which is how this pattern comes in a class, which is kind of annoying, honestly. I usually really like Sew Over It patterns, and I like their website and I like their Instagram and everything, but honestly, in my opinion, The coat class is not worth it for what you get. You have to buy the class if you want this pattern, because they say like it's so complicated you can't do it without the class, but really it's pretty basic, and I think this is like a little bit harsh, but I'm just going to say it. A lot of other pattern companies like Closet Case Files, Grainline Studios, Colette, they all provide free sew-alongs with a lot of pictures. Sometimes they have videos on their websites. So when you buy the pattern, even if you don't buy the pattern, you can still look at these sew-alongs, which are sort of like basically tutorials for how to do the pattern. And for this Chloe coat, you don't gain, like, there's not secret information that they give you in the class. It's just going through the steps of making the coat. And I don't think the steps are particularly hard or advanced in some way that made it so that it had to be in the class and couldn't have been in picture tutorial or in some free, when I say this it just sounds bad, but I was a little bit disappointed by the lack of material that was in such an expensive class for the online class. And I felt like when you're paying that much for the pattern and for the class, they should be giving you more information specifically on how to fit. It was kind of like, okay, here's how you measure. They measured a doll, like a mannequin, just the bust, waist, and hips. Like, I also know how to do that. Could have figured that out pretty easily. That doesn't really require a video. But they didn't really go into detail of how to measure the shoulders. They just said, put on a coat or a shirt that fits you well. Okay, well, what if you don't have a coat or a shirt that fits you well in the shoulders? I don't. So that was, sorry, now I'm getting like frustrated. That was annoying because I just was expecting that there could be a little bit more of, like, for example, how to do a broad shoulder adjustment. It wasn't included in the pattern. So that was just disappointing. Their suggestion was to start from the size 16, or start from the size that fits your shoulders, which for me was a size 16, and adjust the rest of the pattern to fit your body. But there's no way that would have worked for me because it was such a huge size difference. So yeah, I was just really disappointed in that. I ended up deciding in the end that I needed to do a broad back, wide shoulder, and forward shoulder adjustments. So I did a broad back slash, like, I split open the back down to right underneath the arms, and I added 3/4 of an inch on each side to change my size 8 up to the size 16 just in the shoulder measurement. And then, anyway, I also had to do a wide shoulder adjustment for the front because I have a wide shoulder. Like, this part where my shoulder starts here is apparently, this distance is a lot longer than most patterns are written for. Most patterns have this at like 2.5 or 3 inches, and mine is really like 4. So that was one thing. And then also I did a square shoulder adjustment. Oh, I didn't write that down, but I did a square shoulder adjustment too. I know you still see some lines, but I'm pretty confident that once it's closed in the front, it's smooth and fits well. So, and then finally the forward shoulder adjustment is for the forward rolling shoulders, and I think that worked out well. So you can see, like, across the back it fits. I can move. I have a sweater underneath this. I'm pretty sure the shoulders are in the right place, and I might, you know, I'm gonna have to see how it is with the actual fabric. I might end up taking it in a little bit more. We'll just have to see. The sleeves are too long, but that's an easy fix. I'm gonna still make that change on the pattern. And then I also decided to shorten the coat just a little bit. So that's my muslin for the Chloe coat, and I'm really I don't want to sound too harsh on this pattern. I just think that for what you are given in the project, in the class, I think it wasn't worth the amount of money that it cost. And now they recently had a sale where you could get 50% off their online classes, which would have been super nice because then it would have been like a more reasonable price, and I don't think I would have been as disappointed by the lack of information in the class. It's not really that it's a lack of information, but to me it's so basic that a lot of this information, if you have sewn a little bit, like if you consider yourself maybe an adventurous beginner or something, a lot of this information you'll kind of already know or picked up from other patterns or easily have access to it online. So I just didn't find that the class like taught me anything new that I haven't already picked up from other sources, and that's kind of what I was expecting in a coat class because I haven't made a coat before. But honestly, I referred to the free sew-along of the, I think it's called the Claire coat from Closet Case Files. I've looked at her blog posts and got so much more information and helpful tips than I have in the Sew Over It class. So sorry to have a bad review on that, but that is my honest opinion. But proof that I do still like Sew Over It. This is my coat fabric. It is a beautiful dark forest green. It's a Melton wool and I have a lot of it. I don't think you're gonna be able to really see how beautiful it is, but I still need to like steam it or whatever to kind of shrink it, but here it is. You can kind of get a feeling for it. But yeah, it's a really beautiful fabric and I bought this from Sew Over It in their online shop. So that's my plan for the Chloe coat. And I also bought this Thin Slate fabric, which is an insulation fabric that I'm planning on using for the body of the coat, not the arms, to add an extra layer of warmth in the coat because I really do want this to be a warm coat that I can wear in the winter here if possible. My current wool coat that I have, which is getting quite worn, I must say, I've had it now for I want to say 5 years. That coat I can really only wear down to 32 degrees or 0 degrees Celsius, and then it's too cold. And then I switch over to a big down coat that I have. But I would really like to be able to have a nice wool coat that I can wear at colder temperatures if possible. And also just, I think I need a replacement or a second option for a wool coat because it's like something that I wear every single day. This Thin Slate material is kind of smooth on one side and more like batting fluffy on the other side. And I first heard about this material from, I think her name's Lauren, but now I'm not sure, of the Guthrie and Ghani podcast and shop. She has a beautiful accent and I really enjoy watching her videos. She just made a Kelly Anorak coat, which is actually how I found her because I was looking for tips on my Kelly Anorak, which is another story. And she lined her coat with this fabric and she said it was super warm, so I thought I would give that a try. I read a couple of blog posts and stuff online with using that Thin Slate fabric, and they suggest, like almost everybody has suggested using that fabric, like lining the lining, if you know what I mean. So cutting out the Thin Slate fabric to match the lining pieces of the jacket rather than to match the outside pieces of the jacket. And I would have thought that you would match the outer pieces of the jacket, but apparently if you want to have the nice drape of your jacket, if you want to sort of try to maintain that drape, which I know that having this fabric will stiffen it up a bit, then you want to line the lining, which seems weird to me, but I think I'm gonna go for it. I haven't found a lining fabric that I love yet, so I haven't purchased anything. This is a little asterisk in my no purchases before projects plan for sewing because there are a few things on my list that still require a few tools or a little bit of fabric to supplement what I already have for a particular project. So one of the things, for example, is the lining for this Chloe coat. I don't have the lining fabric yet, but I've been looking. I have one finished sewing project this week, which is pretty awesome, if I do say so myself. This is my purse and it's finished and I really like it. You can see a little color theme going on. I've kind of recently become obsessed with this green color. I really like it. I think it goes well with my eyes and my hair. So this is my bag, and this is, I think I showed you last time, or I talked about maybe, the kit that I ordered from Nizu Craft. This took me about a week to sew, just working on it, like from cutting out to having it all together, took about a week. And it has a strap like this too, a shoulder strap. I've been using it a lot, bringing my lunch to work, and it fits like, you know, my headphones, my lunch, and it's just like perfect. Okay, those are my mini headphones, but that's all this is in there right now. It's fully lined. It has pockets on both sides. It has a zipper pocket on the back here. It has really nice leather details. The straps are also with the leather, and then it has a little tag on the front. Mine says stitched. And it has side pockets too, which sometimes I slip my phone in there. I wrote down some pros and cons. Well, I'll just go through the things I like. First of all, the interfacing has its own pattern pieces. So this means that everything, it's not like, oh, use the main body piece but cut 1 centimeter less on each side. No, there's like a separate paper piece that says cut 1 in interfacing. I just like that. I also like that all of the fabric that came in the kit is used. I literally had tiny pieces of scraps left. Keep that in mind for one of the cons. I learned so many new techniques in this bag. It was a little bit tricky, I'm not gonna lie, sewing through so many layers of canvas, but I was able to do it on my normal sewing machine. There was only one part here, like I can't get the top stitching part right around this edge on both sides. I just couldn't do it, so it just ends, but that's how it is. So I also learned a new technique for how to stitch on the like the leather tags, which was really cool, using 2 needles at a time, hand stitching that on. I've never made any straps before like this, so that was cool. And same with this nice strap with like, I mean, everything just, it feels like a real bag, which is nice. And I like that it has some structure to it. The instructions were really clear. There was pictures for everything, and there was just nothing left to wonder about or to think, am I doing this right, or should it be like this? Everything was laid out and really clear with great instructions. And there was a couple times when I thought, are you sure? Like I was questioning the instructions, and then it's like, no, obviously they're right. So cons, all of the fabric is used. I actually was short by about 1 centimeter or 2 when I needed to cut out the piece for the strap, the long strap, which totally didn't matter in the end because like you changed the length of the strap anyway. It didn't make my strap too short. I had the strap shortened, as you can see, up to this point. So it didn't matter, but just to keep in mind, if you make one of these kits, you must look at the cutting instructions for the pattern layout, like how to lay out the pieces, because I am usually pretty good at laying out the pieces in a pattern to make the most of the fabric and get everything to kind of fit in, being like most efficient. But this was like to a whole new extreme level of that. And I think if you had laid it out any other way besides how they had it, it probably wouldn't have worked. And even though I did follow those instructions, I was just the tiniest bit shy on the strap, but it didn't matter in the end. So I did like the fact that the interfacing had its own pattern pieces, but I didn't like the fact that most of the pattern pieces were on the fold. Pieces that didn't really need to be on the fold either were on the fold. For example, like this main front piece was only shown as this like side, like half a piece, and it said cut it on the fold. The thing is, with this thick of a material, canvas, it's really not good to cut it on the fold because the fold itself takes up a couple of 1/8 of an inch, and you would just, yeah, I ended up like laying it down, tracing it out, flipping it, tracing it again, and then cutting because it just, yeah, I didn't want to do it on the fold. And the last con is that it was nearly impossible to top stitch the edge around where I showed you because it was just too thick here. And I don't know how you can solve that. I did break my needle once, but I think that's pretty good for a whole canvas bag. So I really like it and I've been using it a lot, and I think it would make a really nice gift for someone too. I don't think I would necessarily order the kit again, like now that I have the pattern and I have a feeling for the type of fabric that's used from the kit. I think I could source my own materials, but I can definitely see myself making it again. So it was fun to have a kit to work from, and it was also enjoyable to, like, I just worked on it a little bit at a time every night. I cut it out one night. I just had it kind of set up so that I could do a little bit at a time, not feel like I was rushing to get it finished. And I made it through in about a week, so. Okay, so now I thought I would just share with you my sewing projects before purchases, which is a similar idea as my knitting plans, that I'm not buying any more fabric except for, again, a couple of exceptions. Until I make it through this list, which also the point is, like, I might be finished with this list next week. No, I won't be. But maybe I'll be finished with this list in 8 months or 3 months, or, you know, so it's not like a restriction of like you cannot buy any fabric for 1 month, which I don't think is very productive personally anyway. It's like, work through these projects that you really were excited about making when you bought the fabric for them, and then think about like what is next on your list that is exciting you. So the first thing on my list was the Nizo Craft bag, Nizo Crafts purse, and that is finished. I started it on November 6th and I finished it on November 11th. The next is the Closet Case Files Kelly Anorak version 2. Version 1 was kind of a fail, unfortunately. I was super excited about it in my last video, and then when I attached the sleeves I realized that they were way too tight and that I have a broad back. So I need to look at that pattern again and do a broad back adjustment. I have some new black waterproof fabric that I'm going to use, and I also got some Seam Sure, which is a water-based seam sealer that I'm going to use to paint over the seams so that it is fully waterproof. The fabric that I got this time is a little bit more, it's a ripstop I think it's called, and it feels a little bit more waterproof rather than just water resistant from the first one that I got. So I think that will be a plus. I think I will still be able to use the other one as a good starting point muslin to see like where I need to make the changes for my next version. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but you know, that's how it goes sometimes. So Nizo purse, Closet Case Files Kelly Anorak version 2. So over at Chloe Coat, started the pattern adjustments on November 14th. And then after that I made the muslin, and still gonna buy the lining fabric. And I kind of want to get some crazy Liberty fabric piping for inside. Anyway, I also want to make the Deer and Doe Luzerne trench, which I have fabric for a beautiful blue twill fabric, navy. Closet Case File Ginger Jeans, at least 1 pair. I also want to make the Megan Nielsen Darling Ranges dress, at least 1 of those. I have started making the pattern adjustments for that, again with a huge back adjustment, because I think the back for that pattern measured at like 12.5 inches or something, and I'm going to change it to 15.5 inches for the shoulders and the back. I think for the coat I'm doing 16 inches because on a coat like the shoulders need slightly more room, because it's not going to be like, it is going to be fitted, but also I will wear more bulky clothes under it like a sweater, as opposed to the dress, which will be against my skin. And I will make 2 skirts for my sister for Christmas / her birthday, and I ordered fabric for that actually last week, which I also didn't count that in my projects before purchases because I didn't have any fabric that would suit that in my stash, and I wanted to make those as a gift for her. So, and then finally I want to make the Victory Patterns ham and sausage. which I started on November 11th. And I know that sounds funny, but I will show you what that is now. There are a couple of, I guess, specialty tools that are nice to have when you're sewing with wool. So I have started sourcing these tools before making my Chloe coat. And one of the things is a ham, which you probably have heard of a ham before, but maybe not a sausage. Well, you've probably heard of sausage too, but not for sewing. Basically, a ham and a sausage are tools that you can use while pressing or ironing your wool so that you can get nice crisp seams and you don't run the risk of putting the imprint of the seam onto another part of the fabric. So mine are still in progress. This is a free pattern, by the way. I think I found it on Tilly and the Buttons, but I think it's, if you Google search Victory Patterns Ham and Sausage, you'll find it. So here is my ham, and it's not stuffed yet, but it had some, like, you know, darts to sew, kind of. And those are all sewn. So I will stuff this with, like, rabbit bedding, which, yeah, sawdust kind of wood shavings. You can only buy, well, where I found to buy these wood shavings, you can only buy a 30-liter bag, which is like huge. So I was gonna buy something the other day, but then it was just like we had too many other errands to do at the time, so I couldn't pick up the bag and bring it home. But I'm gonna need to find someone with a rabbit after that because I'm gonna have a lot of leftover. And then my sausage, this is like for sleeves and stuff, will be a good pressing surface. And basically what I used for these is 2 layers of just normal muslin fabric for the plain side here, and then I used some scraps that I had left over from the Cotton and Steel Rifle Paper Co. Les Fleurs collection, which I also have my seat cushions in my kitchen chairs upholstered in this fabric, and I have a beautiful project bag that one of my friends made me. So I really want to get these finished because they're going to be very useful for my coat sewing. Another amazing tool that I cannot believe has even taken me this long to show you is my clapper. This is such a beautiful piece of art, I think. My dad made me this while I was in the US for our wedding, and this is a piece of wood. I want to say, Dad, you're gonna tell me what this is, but I think that it's either maple. I want to say it's maple. It's beautifully finished and sanded, and it has a nice little, you see this little ridge here, that's for your fingers so that you can grip it well. It's heavy and it's perfectly flat on one side, and then this edge has a nice rounded side so that it's comfortable on your hand. And basically what you use a clapper for is, like, let's picture that you have your sleeve and then you have your sausage that you put in your sleeve, and so it's a nice rounded thing that's pretty stiff. This is going downhill. Anyway, so you have your sausage in your sleeve that's nice and stiff, and you steam your iron on the seam, and then because it's so hot, but you want to be able to press your oh, now you have a hot sausage. Okay, you want to be able to press your seam down. You can hold the clapper over the seam, like pushing down on it. Again, this is sandwiched between your wool, so that it leaves like a really nice crisp edge. It absorbs a little bit of the moisture from the iron, and it allows the fabric to cool while it's still being pressed down so that you get a nice crisp finish. So this is my beautiful handmade clapper from my dad. You can purchase these online, but I know that my dad is such an excellent woodsmith? I don't know. He makes really nice frames and things like that, so I knew that this would be something he would be able to make for me. So that's my clapper. Okay, I think that's all for episode 71. Thank you for joining me. let me know if you would like to join along with the projects before purchases. You could do it for sewing or knitting or both. And I look forward to seeing what you have on your list to start making and working your way through some projects that you've been wanting to make for a while. So until next time, happy sewing and happy knitting and happy holidays, because